Hey guys, welcome back to Hook with Anime. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. Chapter 0. Fallen God. Naruto couldn't believe what just happened. Sasuke was now laying in his arms, dead. Sakura and Kakashi were laying dead somewhere. Now Kagaya teleported them away. Guys, I don't know what to do, Naruto thought to the tailed beasts. Kurama looked to the others and they all nodded at him. He sighed, knowing this was the end for them. Naruto, we have a last resort option. It will most likely kill all of us, but thankfully Sasuke gave you his yin seal, so you should be able to beat her. Kagaya floated overhead smirking while Zetsu yelled out, "Give up Naruto! Uzumaki and Mother will make it painless. She may even give you them back in the endless dream." Naruto started to tremble, then he yelled back, "How about I just send you to hell instead?" As Naruto yelled this, a massive chakra geyser sprang forth. The amount was unreal as red, gold, purple and blue danced around Naruto. As the chakra condensed around Naruto, it took an interesting form. Naruto now had what looked like 10 long arms, and around his mouth was tribal-like markings. All in all, he looked like a miniature Jubi. At that moment, Kagaya felt something she hadn't since she fled from the Otsutsuki clan with a Jubi seedling: fear, unlimited and endless fear. She knew what that form was and what it could do. She only seen it one other time, and that was when a member of her clan and a Jubi became truly one. The power Naruto now had was far greater than what she had now. With that, Naruto seemed to disappear, only for him to show back up with him planting his fist into Kagaya's guts. She doubled over in pain and was sent flying, or at least for a second, as Naruto appeared behind her and Rasengan her into the ground. After that, Kagaya shot back up with her ashbone in her hands. But this was for naught, as she was driven back into the ground by Naruto's foot stomping on her face. Naruto then grabbed Kagaya up by the throat. He then preformed the sealing jetsu. Before it could be completed, Kagaya opened a portal and began to push him and her into it. Right after it closed, and with both of them out of this universe, the Sage of Six Paths looked down at his hand and seen the sun and moon back in his hands. He now knew the deed was done. He sighed as he released everyone from the Jubi and the Fated. With Naruto just finished off Kagaya, and as he seen the tailed beasts being freed, he then seen the started to disappeared, which freaked him out. Naruto then yelled out, "Kurama, what's happening?" The giant fox gave Naruto a sad look as he said, "Naruto, what we did was basically open up our own 8th inner gate. In other words, we are dying." Tears begin to flow from all of them. Naruto then said, "What's going to happen now?" He said, crying, knowing nothing good was going to happen. Kurama for his part said, "I don't know, kid, but seeing as you lost both seals in the fact you let us run so much chakra through you, you may not even be able to ever use chakra again, but regardless, this is it, kid, goodbye." As they faded away, Naruto only had enough time to say goodbye himself. After that, a portal opened up and he fell into the ocean, and thankfully near a fishing boat. Over 2 years later, Naruto had finally done it. After about 2 years on a damn fishing boat and taking a considerable loan from a loan shark group, he was able to open his own restaurant, and tonight was his big opening. As Naruto was filling orders, he heard some screaming coming from the dining room. Then one of his employees came running in and screaming, boss, come quick!" Some red hair guy slapped Katara across the room. At hearing this, Naruto came running and seen Katara laying unconscious on the ground. He then heard, "Yujiro, what the hell are you doing?" And he heard after that, "Whatever I damn well feel like doing," coming from a sinister voice. Naruto then looked up and seen 2 different people. Both were men in their late 40s, but one was dressed as a military officer and the other was a tall, overly muscular man with 0 body fat. He had odd, long, spiky hair. All Naruto could see right now was red as he walked up to them. Yujiro looked at the shorter man and said, "And what do you think you are going to?" Yujiro was cut off as Naruto moved fast, then Yujiro could react, as Yujiro was slammed head first through the cash register and counter. Yujiro then jumped back up and tried to attack, but was met with a roundhouse kick from Naruto that sent him through chairs, tables and finally the window to the store. Yujiro then got back up only to feel something in his mouth. As he spit it out, he found it was both his top and bottom front teeth. Back in the store, the military man was in complete disbelief over what just happened. He looked back from seeing where Yujiro was laying in the street back to the young blonde, only to see him very pissed off and for him to say, "Get the fuck out of my way or you're next." The older man did just that as he felt the killing intent coming off the younger man. Naruto walked out of his shop to see the asshole jump up, rip off his shirt and yell, "I'm going to fucking kill you then rape you." He then ran forward at Naruto with a punch, but Naruto ducked it and did a sweep kick as hard as he could, which he could hear Yuhiro's legs break from the force behind it. As Yuhiro fell back down, Naruto jumped up and right on his right arm, smashing it as well as the street below it. Naruto then said, "I better never in my life see you come back around here again or I will kill you. Do you hear me, bastard?" With that, Naruto went back in and told the other guy to collect his trash and leave now. Chapter 1. Do what? Baki was in complete disbelief at what he just heard. No more than a week ago he challenged his father Yuhiro right after the tournament and after he was cured of being poisoned. Now in front of him one Tokugawa, owner of the underground fighting circuit, just told him his father, the strongest creature on the planet, got his ass beat by some dude that owned a noodle shop here in town. Tokugawa looked at Baki while puffing on his pipe. He then exhaled and said, "Baki, I know it's hard to hear, but every man has his limits and every man will meet his match sooner or later. In truth, it's a miracle that Yuhiro hasn't met it sooner than he has." Baki looked at the sorter and said, "Yeah, I get that, but some random dude, who is 100% unknown to the fighting world. Who and how in the hell was he able to?" Baki was truly dumbfounded by this. Tokugawa sighed at this. "Baki, I told you all I know already. This guy Naruto Uzumaki doesn't have any record in fighting in either pro, amateur or even underground. The only thing I know is your father went into his shop and was his usual self and he found himself being beaten into the ground by his power and speed." Baki got up and headed for Tokugawa's sliding door and said, "Okay, well, I am going to see this guy for myself." "Wait, where did you say this guy was again?" The old man got up as he had to see this for himself. With Naruto sighed as he was throwing out a chair from last night's debacle. For the last 2 years after Sasuke died to help him beat Kaguya and got him trapped in this world. In truth, he lost all of his chakra abilities, but he still had the full strength and speed he had before. As the former ninja entered his shop that he bought after busting his ass on a fishing boat for a year and a half, but in truth he still only have 8 months to get the cash flowing or he would be in a bind. Something that having a assholes like last night will make it very difficult. While Naruto was reflecting on this, he heard the bell to his shop ringer. The restaurant owner then turned around and said, "Sorry, but we're not opening today, as we had some trouble with a customer last night and he broke some things." Baki and his elderly company both looked at the owner. The man did not look like a fighter at all. He didn't look like he had much muscle at all, neither did he have any scars. The only thing that stuck out about him was his very short spiky yellow hair and the odd birthmarks on his face. All in all, he looked like an average Japanese man. Baki looked over at Tokugawa and asked, "Are you sure this is the right restaurant where Dad got his ass kicked?" The shorter man just shrugged as his was the only shop in town that had a 9-tailed fox on the sign and was called Uzumaki Noodles. At hearing this, Naruto stopped cleaning and fully faced them. The kid that looked to be about a year younger than himself did look like the guy he beat the hell out of last night. But unlike that guy, this kid was shorter than himself and he had a lot more scars than that guy had. He also had a lot less muscle than the guy as well. Naruto realized his killing intent, which scared the shit out of the older of the two and caught the younger one off guard. Naruto then asked, "Let me guess, you're to challenge me to a fight, because you're angry I beat the shit out of the asshole you call a father." It took a moment for Baki to collect himself, as he never felt key like that before. The only person who came close was his old man. But Baki still said, "Yeah, no, I'm not angry at all about you beating that bastard. I am however here to challenge you to a spar, as it's hard to believe anyone could beat that fucker." Naruto raised an eyebrow at that, as he could tell there was genuine destiny there between father and son. Naruto just shook his head and said, "Look." Naruto stopped, waited for Baki to give his name, which Naruto returned in kind. "Right, Baki, you might be looking for a fight, but my days of fighting are long over. The only reason I would fight someone now is if I got no other choice." Tokugawa chimed in with, "If you let young Baki here fight you, I personally will reimburse you for all the damage done to your shop that his father Yuhiro had done to it, along with twice that if you win." Naruto looked at the short man and could tell he had the cash to back that up. Naruto thought about it and knew his insurance will take care of the damage, but then again he could use the money as well. After all, that guy did break his window along with 3 tables and 4 chairs. Not to mention the cash register and counter. That will take a week to fix. With all that in mind, Naruto agreed to it, which he was told to got to the Tokyo Dome that night, where someone will lead him to an underground arena. Later that night, Naruto just exit the elevator to the Underdome arena. Naruto was impressed, and he definitely now knew this old dude definitely had the money, but from what the butler said that fighters usually didn't get paid to fight here. To which Naruto outright said, "Bullshit, there's no way in hell I would be fighting here for free, fuck that." To which said man has too agreed with Naruto. Shortly after, Naruto was shown backstage so he could get ready for the fight. To which Naruto really had nothing to do, as he was going to fight in the orange shorts and t-shirts that had his restaurant name on it, along with his sandals. So Naruto just sat there watching the fight on the TV, which had some worthless sumo getting his ass kicked. After the fat ass lost to someone who actually fight for a living and not just push on another fat ass, the butler told him it was time. As Naruto made his way to the ring, he heard the announce introduce Baki, and apparently he was the champion of this place. Not really that surprising, as his dad was a tough bastard, and if he was anything like his old man, then he should be. Naruto looked around as he entered the ring was in truth underwhelming. It was little more than a circle of sand, a cheap-ass fiancé with concrete bleachers. He looked over at Baki, who was basically naked with the exception of the shorts and the tape on his wrist and ankles. Bak looked over at Naruto and could tell he wasn't talking this serious. Then again, this is the same man that put Yujiro Hanma in the hospital. Yeah, Baki in truth was rethinking his choice of wanting to fight this man right now. Nevertheless, he never backed down from a fight before, and he wasn't going to now either. At that, they heard the announcer call a start to the match. Baki started with his usual stance. Naruto, on the other hand, just went for it and was on Baki so fast he barely had time to react. Baki found himself blocking the hardest right he had ever felt in his life. Matter of fact, so hard it sent him straight through the wooden wall behind him. Baki got up and looked down at his arms that he blocked with, and they were bruised and bloody from the skid that was peeled off. He could tell he was lucky his arms weren't broken. Baki looked up in time to dodge a flying dropkick that shook the entire ring. Baki, alongside everyone else, looked in complete total disbelief over what they just seen, as Naruto was now standing in a hole in the ground that was up to his knees. Naruto, for his part, was actually a little freaked out, as he definitely didn't mean to do this. Baki just had to outright say it. "Wow, I just got to say I didn't believe it at first, but now I completely believe it. To think a monster like you existed all these years but haven't shown up until now." Naruto just scratched the back of his head as he walked out of the hole and said, "Yeah, well, I guess you could say a few years ago I was in a different world. Haha. Wish I was still in that world." Naruto thought that last part. Baki laughed at that, but right after went on the attack with a Superman punch to the face. To which Naruto did block as he was distracted, but when the punch landed it didn't even faze him at all. To Baki it felt like he just punched a damn tree and his hand was now hurting like hell. In response, Naruto looked at him and then delivered a right uppercut from hell and sending Baki straight to heaven, or at least it would have if it wasn't for the ceiling stopped him, and thanks to Naruto holding back so Baki would go through it. Baki then fell back down unconscious. Of course, Baki was out of it from the punch, yet alone hitting the roof or falling back down. "Oh shit, I didn't mean to hit him that hard." Naruto was freaking out, as over the last 2 years he came to find out how fragile the people of this world was. He rushed over to the kid and checked to see if he was alive, which he was. He then heard the announcer telling everyone he was the winner, to which the crowd yelled and cheered for his win. Naruto looked over at Tokugawa, who was frozen and unmoving. Naruto just sighed and was hoping he didn't have to pay for all the damage done during the fight. Chapter 2. A New Legend. Naruto was sitting in the Tokugawa's personal office under the Tokyo Dome counting the money he just won. Naruto stopped counting for a second as Tokugawa was staring a hole through it, to which Naruto gained a tick mark and started to turn red. Naruto then yelled, What is it?" Tokugawa jumped at Naruto's sudden outburst, but he then realized what he was doing and blushed in embarrassment and came out to ask, "I am sorry, but in all my 75 years of observing fighter starting when my father started to groom me to take over our family legacy. I in truth have never seen a fighter like you before. At the his Naruto just shook his head and said while finishing counting his money, really, you don't say? Tokugawa continued. I do say. The 5 greatest fighter one have ever seen in my life where, Yujiro Hanma, Yuhiro's father, the ancient master Kyokaku and young Baki Hanma, in that order. You sitting here a man I never heard of before have already beaten Yujiro and before my very own eyes effortless beat Baki and by what you said in the ring was holding back at that. Naruto sighed as he put his money in his pocket, as he knew where this was going, as he let Tokugawa finish. So what I'm saying, Mr. Uzumaki, what is your story? At this Naruto looked at the elderly man and said, I have 2 stories for you about my life, one is believable but is nothing but a lie. The other one is the truth but you will think I'm completely out of my mind. Or I'm outright lying to you. So which one do you want to hear? Tokugawa thought about it for a second and said, tell me the truth, you may be surprised by what I can believe. Naruto already knew Tokugawa was going to think he was out of his mind. I'm a ninja, child, super soldier from another dimension, that got stuck here in this universe after I fought my goddess ancestor. In the process I lost the 9 demons that were inside of me, as well as my own demigod powers. But thankfully I still have my speed, strength and healing factor from when I was at my full strength. Tokugawa had no idea as to what to say after hearing that. In truth he was wondering if that was a lie or if Naruto was batshit insane. If that was the truth then, he was wondering, how in the hell that was even possible. At Tokugawa's silence Naruto could tell that was going to take a while to process. So in hopes of getting away from this and hopping he could slip away from paying for the damages Naruto said, anyway, I'm going home as it's getting late and I have a big day of working on my shop, so. See you around. With that Naruto hightailed it the fuck out of there. As he was leaving he passed a shorter and more muscular elderly man that had a skated up face and only had one eye. Naruto gave the elderly man no mind as he walked past, but the old man stopped and smirked at Naruto's retreating form. The next day Naruto spent with replacing his tables and chairs with the money his insurance had given him for the damages, and to his surprise when they found out about who he fought and beat his insurance wasn't going to go up. It actually made him feel like he should have killed Yujiro as his debt was also wiped away as well. Well, at least all he had now was the landlord to pay off this month. Naruto then heard the bell on his door ring as he was putting together the table. I really need to start locking that door, Naruto thought as he turned to see who just came in. To his astonishment it was the same old dude he passed last night. The old man walked up to Naruto and took off his hat as he said, sorry I know you're not open right now but I have an interesting offer for you. By the way the name is Doppo Orochi, Doppo said with a smile. Naruto leaned back and asked, really, and what is that? Flashback. Doppo opened Tokugawa's door just to see his jaw was on the floor. In truth Tokugawa looked like his brain was fried. Is this a bad time, Tokugawa? I can always come back tomorrow, Doppo said as he closed the door behind him. At hearing his old friend's words it snapped him out of his funk. Tokugawa looked over at Doppo and seen he had the biggest shit-eating grin. Doppo, what do you want? At Tokugawa's blunt question and the state he was just in made Doppo chuckle as he answered. I'm here because I seen the fight Baki was just in and I have 2 questions. 1. Who was that kid, and 2. Do you think you could set up a fight for me? Flashback end. Doppo then continued with, so Tokugawa told me that the only reason you did fight last night was because he offered you money. He also told me you beat the king nearly to death. So in other words, what is it going to take for me and you to fight in the ring or even outside the ring? Naruto looked at Doppo for a second and said, are you the same Doppo Orochi that owns that massive martial arts school? After Doppo confirmed he was, Naruto said, okay, well you have to let me be the only food stall at your tournaments. Doppo was actually shocked by this, as this would be a pain in the ass to do. As his school has 12 tournaments a year, all of which has endorsements and sometimes they are from food chains. Sure, it usually not, but still. Doppo sucked it up and said, okay, fine, damn it, it's going to take me a few days to get the contract but only if you fight me first. I have a schedule match tonight, so I will see you there. Naruto was smirking the whole time Doppo was leaving. But after he left Naruto's side and looked over at the wall and looked at his old Team 7 picture, both the old one and one from the hot springs after Kakashi was hurt after he came back from his training trip. Guys, I know I said I would quit after coming here as I had no reason to fight anymore. But I think I may have at least found something to fight for again. It may be selfish, but I know you would want me to stay depressed either. Naruto then got back to work on the tables he bought as he needed it done by 12 before the guy who was going to replace the counter shown up. That night, Naruto was now making his way to the ring, all the while he heard the ring announcer saying, "Today we have a very special match tonight. The first fighter is none other than the Tiger Slayer and God of War himself, Doppo Orochi." The stands were cheering as loud as last night for Baki. Then he heard his opponent is none other than the new king of fighters, the super soldier, the God Slayer, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto rolled his eyes at that last part as he knew Tokugawa was behind that last part.
As he entered the ring, he seen everyone cheering for him. Naruto also seen Doppo was in his GI and was stretching. Naruto of course was wearing casual clothes with sandals, something Naruto wouldn't be changing anytime soon.
When Doppo seen Naruto, he assumed a defensive stance. Naruto in turn got into his frog stance. As they did this, the rules were spoken and then the match was on from there.
Naruto started things off as he blasted off to Doppo with a frog kick. Doppo, thanks to his years of training, was able to block it, which turned out to be a mistake as his hands slammed into his chest and he was sent flying into the air. Doppo then landed face flat on the ground. As Doppo laid there, Naruto straightened back up and walked closer to Doppo and asked, "Hey bold Gramps, are you okay?" "I tried to hold back." Naruto easily backstepped a spear strike from Doppo. Unfortunately, Doppo wasn't so lucky as Naruto Spartan kicked him in the face, which sent him into the wall. Naruto then said, "Really a sneak attack?" Doppo got up holding his now broken nose and said, "Well, after I seen what you did last night and the fact you fucked your hero up pretty good, I thought it was a pretty good idea." Doppo then popped it back in place and stood up. He then looked at Naruto then said, "How about this? I will give you one more chance to end this with one punch. If you can walk over here and punch me, I will give up." Naruto thought about it. He knew the old man was up to something, but he was sure he could handle it. After all, he hasn't yet found anything in this world that could truly hurt him. Naruto then walked straight up to Doppo, who wasn't moving and standing straight up. Naruto then pulled his arm straight back and let a rip. Naruto was then shocked his fist did connect. "What? How did I come up short?" Doppo was smirking, and before Naruto knew it, Doppo had launched a quick succession of one punch after another into Naruto's chest. Naruto was being pushed back with each punch, and after the 20th punch, Doppo jumped back, seeing Naruto was still standing. A deadpan stare was all Doppo was getting from Naruto. In truth, Naruto was more annoying than hurt. Naruto then said, "Okay, I'm done playing these games with you." Doppo looked confused up until Naruto took off like a jet and hit Doppo so hard he flew straight through the doors the spectators were supposed to us at the top.
Everyone who was there last night looked shocked by this and waited for Doppo to come back through the doors, but when he never did, Naruto was declared the winner, to which Naruto jumped up and down as it meant Naruto just scoured a major contract. Chapter 3. Loan Shark. Naruto was having a very good week after all that has happened last week with fighting Yujiro, Baki and Doppo. This week he spent working in his noodle shop, too, which was booming with clients, most from the underground arena and Doppo's school, but hey, it was something. So Naruto was making quite a bit of money this week. Naruto stopped his cooking as he heard someone behind him. "What is it, Ichigo? Don't tell me something happened again." Naruto said calmly, but was obviously very ready to go on the warpath. Ichigo was a mild-mannered boy. He had brown hair and tapped-up glasses. He was a bit buck-toothed as well. Ichigo for his part sweat dropped at that, as he was the one to tell Naruto last time, as the only other person who worked here was Katara. "Ah no boss, a Mr. Hanayama is here wanting to see you."
Naruto looked back at Ichigo, as that name is the same one as the head of the group that he got a loan from and the same one he pays every month for using their building for his shop. Naruto then said, "Don't worry about it. Ichigo, come and take over while I deal with this."
Ichigo nodded and Naruto walked out. He then passed by Katara working the register. Katara was a very short girl of only 4 feet 11 inches. She had short black hair in a pixie cut and blue eyes, with freckles. Lastly, she had a cut on her cheek from where Yujiro had slapped her. She looked at Naruto and immediately looked back because of her shy nature, which was why Naruto put her at the counter. Naruto then walked through his packed dining room and seen them. Hanayama was a very tall man with a bow cut in glass. He was wearing a 3-piece suit. He also had 2 other guys around him. All of them had on the same type of clothes as they were in a mob, running gambling brackets and loan sharking. To which Naruto was banned for the former as he won too much. As Naruto made his way to the table all the while getting past everyone, he then finally made it to the table and says, "Hey, I heard you wanted to talk to me." Naruto then sat right in front of them without a care in the world. The goons all looked at Naruto like he grew a second head. They all then looked at Hanayama for his reaction, but he looked like he didn't care at all. The shorter man that was sitting beside Hanayama began to speak. "Mr. Uzumaki, my boss here would like to formally congratulate you on your victory over the ogre, Mr. Baki and Master Dopo." Naruto raised an eyebrow at that ogre part, but soon choked it up to being Yujiro. Naruto then replied with, "Okay, thanks I guess, but I know you didn't just pull me out of the kitchen at rush hour just for that. Did you?" Naruto finished that last part with an annoyed voice. The two looked at each other and the short one said, "No sir, we did not. My boss actually came here to challenge you." Naruto had already figured that part out as Hanayama was a well-known street fighter and had more than enough money to be connected to the Underdome. But there was still one problem here. "Sorry, but I'm going to have to refuse the challenge, as I don't fight for just no reason." One of the goons there opened his mouth at hearing that. "Well, how about we just burn this place to the ground then, after all we already own this place." Said thug then pissed himself from the amount of ki that was coming off of Naruto. And right before his very own eyes he seen Naruto morph into a giant with 3 faces on his head and 6 arms growing out of him. He looked around as seen everyone else acting like they didn't see this. He then heard from the monster, "I like to see you try that." Every word he heard was bloodthirsty. He then ran away screaming about a monster. Everyone else looked at the screaming man with a look of shock. Hanayama finally said something at this. What the hell is his problem? He then looked to Naruto, who just shrugged. The street fighter then said, "I apologize for his outburst, and we already knew this before coming here. The reward you will get for beating me is we are willing to sell you this place for very cheap." Naruto thought about it and in truth sounded like a hell of a deal, as in truth that would mean he would only have his yearly tax to pay then. Well, except for the usual cost of running a noodle shop, that is. That sounds good to me, but can we wait till Sunday to do this, as I am extremely busy till then? Naruto asked, as it was the truth. The only days off he has is Sunday and Wednesday. Which in truth Wednesday he used for his errands. Hanayama did waste no time in agreeing to the term and told Naruto he would has a spot for them to fight that night. Him and his goons then walked out of the shop as Naruto went back to work. Outside, one of Hanayama outright asked his boss once they got in the car, "Hey boss, if you don't mind me asking, why didn't you challenge that kid right then and there like you usually do to people you want to fight?" Hanayama looked straight at him and said, "The same reason I'm going to have Ren kicked out of the organization and why I said don't say or do anything in there." Naruto Uzumaki might just look like a regular guy, but he actually is the most powerful thing in the world now. Yujiro had inter-armies scared of him because of how powerful he was. Then not even 2 weeks ago that man in there won Naruto Uzumaki, beat him so bad that Yujiro couldn't walk, eat or even wipe his own ass from the beating he received. Everyone looked at him in complete and total disbelief. The same man then asked, "So that's why we cleared the debt, right boss, and are you so sure it's a good idea to fight him if he's that powerful?" Hanayama just sighed at the constant questions. He then looked the man dead in the eye and says, "No, the real reason we cleared him is because Tokugawa paid it off." "Why did he do that?" "Beats me. Now as for why I challenge him, you wouldn't get it at all, as you are not a grappler. Now, any other questions?" Everyone just shut up as they knew all the questions was getting on his nerves, and the last thing any one of them wanted to do was to get on the boss's bad side. The underground arena. Naruto was sitting watching the TV as some guy named Jack was fighting some guy named the Fang. Apparently from what he was told by the butler guy, Jack was Baki's older half-brother and the other guy was from another underground fighting committee. Naruto then heard a knock on the door, to which Naruto yelled out, "Come on in." Then the door opened to show it was Tokugawa was the one knocking. As seeing the elderly owner, Naruto straightened up. "Ah, Naruto, my boy, it's good to see you again," Tokugawa said with a smile, but Naruto could smell the bullshit that was rolling off of him, and Naruto couldn't quite blame the old man either. After all, every time he's fought here something always get broke. The former ninja cleared his throat and said, "Hey, while I can't say it's not a pleasure seeing you, Gramps, but why are you back here and not up there watching the fight?" After saying, Naruto picked up his water and started to take a drink. Tokugawa just looked at him and said, "What, you're not glad to see the man who paid off your debits for you?" He then smirked and seeing water shooting out of Naruto's nose. Naruto looked at him 100% dumbfounded by this, and Tokugawa explained, "You see, Naruto, the reason I did that is because I want you to fight here or be my bodyguard whenever I need you to. Of course I will pay you well for your time." This was unreal, and in truth, if this was a few years ago, Naruto would have jumped on it, no questions asked. Now though, he had a business and employees to take care of now, especially considering both of them live above the shop with him. Naruto looked at Tokugawa after he blew out his nose and said, "While I appreciate the help, and I truly do, I can't just shut everything down and come work for you." Tokugawa gave Naruto a blank stare as he apparently didn't fully listen to him. "Okay, let me try this again. I want you to fight here, ever, other, week, and save my ass when I need you to. Okay, nincompoop. I don't want you to quit, you damn job. I just need some help." Naruto was taken aback by this, as he's been called many things before but never that. Naruto then said, "Fine, I will, but the fight will always have to be on Sunday and your life better be in danger when you call on me." They both then heard a bell. They looked at the TV and apparently Jack bit the dude's face clear off. Naruto was actually thinking, WTF? And the shorter of the two was thinking, "Yeah, that's about what I thought was going to happen," with a deadpan look. Naruto then got up and told Tokugawa, "Well, I guess we better get going, as I have a match to fight and you have one to watch." And with that they both left the locker room, but unbeknownst to the two there was another man hiding in the ceiling listening in on them. The ring. Naruto just came out of the tunnel and what he seen shocked him to his core. Right across from him was basically a butt-ass naked Hanayama. The only thing he had on was a raping holding his junk. At that moment Naruto thought, "What the fuck? Is it too late for me to call this shit off?" Hanayama got into his usual fighting stance, while Naruto was too far gone to do anything right now but to stare at the giant like he was stupid. Thankfully Naruto snapped out of it as he heard the rules started to be said and got ready for the fight. As the bell ringed, Naruto for once let his opponent go first and his stance was wide open. Too bad Hanayama didn't get the memo and stood still up until Naruto had to put right say it. "PSS, I'm letting you make the first move. So, get a move on already."
As Naruto was yelling, Hanayama moved in and swung as hard as he could, and in truth Naruto might have felt it, if it wasn't for the fact Naruto, even holding back, was way faster than him. As Naruto dodged the punch, he thought, it looks like he's all strength and not really anything else. His punch is slow and sloppy, almost as bad as I was as a kid.
Seeing Naruto so easily dodge his punch actually pissed him off a little as he started to let loose one punch after another at the former ninja. Naruto just kept dodging them again and again, until Naruto grabbed Hanayama's wrist and threw him across the ring. As Hanayama was getting back up, he heard Naruto say, "Hanayama, I hate to tell you this, but you really need to work on your form and speed a lot. Whoever you have as your trainer, you should fire them." Hanayama got back into his stance as he told Naruto, "I don't have one or a master, nor do I train. The only practice I need is the fights in the streets." Naruto was now completely in disbelief over what he just heard. "Do what now? That has to be the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my entire life, and that's saying something, as I have said and done some truly stupid shit before." Hanayama was going to snap back at that, but he then seen Naruto get into his toad stance. Then just like that, Naruto was on him with a punch. Hanayama, wanting to play who's the toughest, decided to deliver a punch of his own. This wasn't a bad idea, no. It was a stupid one, as when they first collided it did hurt Naruto a little, but it broke Hanayama's hand. Hanayama screamed from the pain but sent his other hand at Naruto, which the former ninja did the same and ended the exact same way. Hanayama then tried a kick to the blonde's head, which Naruto grabbed and then kicked out the other leg, making Hanayama do a full split, but thankfully he was very limber. Naruto then threw him up into the air. What came next was Naruto's Naruto Bridge, which ended with Naruto stomping Hanayama's head into the ground. It was quite clear to everyone that this match was well over, and Hanayama agreed as he was now knocked out. As such, Naruto was declared the winner, and Naruto made sure he didn't just accidentally kill the mob boss. But as everyone was paying attention to the ring, no one noticed several people sneak out with smirks as they seen enough to form a plan to beat this now king. Chapter 4. War is Hell. Naruto had just finished his fight with Hanayama and was now walking down the hall to HIF waiting room as Tokugawa told him to go there, or more like yelled it across the ring. As he was walking, Naruto seen Baki coming for his match. Naruto stopped and said, "Hey Baki, I'm glad to see you're alright after our fight." For Baki's part, he was a little shocked, as most others fighters he knows would have just said good luck or nothing at all. But Baki smiled nonetheless and was a little glad he found someone like himself as he responded with, "Yeah, I'm not going to lie. That punch you gave me ringed my bell pretty damn good. But anyway, I seen your last 2 fights and I got to ask, how did you get so powerful?" Naruto just outright said it. "Ho, I am originally from a different universe when people were able to control the elements. Matter of fact, I got stuck here right after I beat my goddess ancestor." Naruto said like that was perfectly normal, while Baki started to slowly back away, the extremely powerful and crazy, or as Baki now thinks, man. Seeing this, Naruto told Baki good luck with his match, and in truth the only reason he told Baki the truth was to just mess with him, as he thought it would be funny. In truth it was, as Naruto was now laughing his ass off down the hallway. As Naruto was laughing, he stopped and seen a coin on the ground and went to pick it up, and as soon as he did, a knife flew right over his head. Naruto jumped up and looked behind him to see it sticking into the wall. He then took a quick stance ready for a fight, but there was no one else in the hall. Naruto then went to the knife and pulled it out of the wall. It was just a simple cold-pressed throwing knife, with only one thing written on it: "Let the game begin." Later, Naruto was sitting on a bus waiting to get home and was thinking who the hell could be wanting him dead. In truth, he couldn't think of any in this world that would. Well, except for Asta, who was a deckhand on the boat, but he couldn't hit water even if he fell out of the boat, yet alone hire someone to kill him. Well, that, and he was a drunk who spends all his money on booze. Naruto scratched his head from the announce. He then noticed that the bus stop an old woman got on, and he knew there were no more seats available, so Naruto got up to let her have his seat. It was lucky he did too, as a crossbow bolt slammed through the window and into where he was sitting. At seeing this, he jumped over the old woman and ran off the bus. Right after, Naruto ran to the roof that the shot had to have came from by jumping nearly 5 stories up. As soon as he landed, he looked around and found a crossbow sitting there. Picking it up, he found a note. It said, "Very considerate of you." Okay, Naruto was starting to get annoyed by this. He then looked at the crossbow and said, "I wonder how much I can get for this." He then jumped off the building and running home. The noodle shop. Naruto just got home, which was upstairs to the restaurant. It actually had 4 rentable rooms in it that Naruto was currently renting out to Ichigo and Katara. The last one was used as extra storage for his restaurant. Naruto looked around in the hallway to see if anything was amiss, but the only thing he could tell was Katara and Ichigo was probably already asleep, which makes sense as it was past 10. So Naruto went on into his apartment, then put the crossbow on his couch and started to search his place. And after about an hour, he found several traps from small bombs, blade launcher, and even his bed was replaced with a bed of spikes. This pissed Naruto off to no end. To the pawn, Ichigo, Katara, get in here now. The two of them came running into Naruto's apartment only to see Naruto putting on his old but fixed up ninja clothes. Naruto turned to then and asked while he was finishing up, "Did anybody come up here while I was gone?" Ichigo looked over at his sister and said, "Yeah. Some old guy in a green kimono said he used to work with you on the boat and he came by to deliver some things you wanted." Naruto stopped what he was doing as he heard Ichigo and said, You mean the same boat your father was the captain of for your entire life and I was only on for the last 2 years of before he died? The two of them looked really embarrassed and Naruto finished what he was saying. You two are lucky your father forced me to promise to take care of you two since knew I was buying a restaurant. Naruto then finished and said, I'm probably not going to be here tomorrow, so if you open Katara you are in charge of the kitchen as your brother sucks at it. At hearing this Ichigo screamed out, Hey, I took over for you with Hanayama, didn't I? Naruto stopped at the door and said, Yeah, and I had to throw it all out and start from fresh. Naruto then slammed the door in behind him. The brother and sister just looked at each other then shrugged and went back to their own apartments. Some time later, Naruto was currently hiding in the woods outside of town, which took him about 3 hours to get to, as he needed to make sure he was followed by who the hell ever was hunting him. He also needed time to get Tokugawa on the phone to answer if he might know who was hunting him. Turns out it was a guy by the name of Izo Motobi. He also warned Naruto that an old student of Izo's by the name of Gaia was also in town. Naruto then heard faint footsteps. They were obviously done by a master of stealth and in truth if it wasn't for his own ninja background he might not have heard them. So Naruto slowly made his way to the noise. When he got to it he seen two shadowy figures going down the path. He could tell they were carrying weapons of some kind on them. So Naruto then jumped on them with 2 knives and plunged them into the two, while screaming like a madman the entire time. Too bad for Naruto, they were nothing more than 2 scarecrows on wheels. Naruto then ducked out of the way of 2 rope darts that were flying his way. Naruto then heard, Well sensei, you were right, he did fall for it. He then heard from another voice, Yeah, but we were too slow on the execution. The new king of fighters looked up and seen 2 men walk out of the forest. The 2 was short and one was old while the other was young. The older one was really hairy with long sheath metal gray hair and a full beard, while the younger man was basically hairless. The older one was wearing full-on traditional green kimono and the other was shirtless with military pants and combat boots. Naruto got up and said, You two better be thankful to Tokugawa for conveniencing not to kill you two. Right after saying that, Naruto had to deflect a rope dart and dodge the other one. Naruto then had to dodge both of them this time by leaning backwards. As Izo and Gaia retracted and grabbed their blades, Izo said, Well, I'll give it to you kid, you're definitely worthy of being a grappler, but I'm not so sure about you beating Yujiro. Gaia then said after his master, Yeah, no kidding. Yujiro would have already took both of our heads off. Although the only person I have ever heard of him killing was Baki's mom, but still. Do what? What did you just say? Naruto was both shocked and pissed at hearing this and in truth didn't give a shit about this fight anymore as he was going to give an asshole a visit after this. At Naruto's outburst the two looked at each other and then launched their attack almost the exact same time. On Naruto's part he grabbed the first dart and cut it thanks to his speed and threw it at Gaia, forcing him to drop his. Naruto then grabbed the other one and used it almost like a whip at Izo, who pulled out a short sword and cut the rope and sending the dart into the woods. After all that just happened, Gaia pulled out his combat knife and looked at his old mater and they both nodded at each other. At seeing this, Naruto actually put his own blade away as to not accidentally kill one of them. Just like that, the fight was on with all 3 running at each other. Both Izo and Gaia swing their blades at Naruto, but unfortunately for them Naruto got Izo's arm and then blocked Gaia's. Right after, Naruto kicked Gaia into a tree with enough force to knock him out. Izo on the other hand pulled out another knife and stabbed Naruto with it. They both stood there with Izo surprised that actually worked, but then realized what he just did and looked down at the knife buried in possibly Naruto's liver and started to panic, as he might have just killed this kid. For Naruto, he was shocked that the old man actually went for it, as the previous traps were obviously non-lethal, as it seemed they knew what Naruto was going to do and the ones that was in his house was more annoying than anything else. Even the bed of nails was so close together you would have to actually try and hurt yourself on purpose. Izo slowly backed away from Naruto and then what he seen shocked him. Naruto grabbed the knife and ripped it straight out and then pulled up his shirt. Right before Izo's very own eyes the cut started to sizzle in the close-up. Izo looked up and said, What? Just in time for Naruto to knock him out with a left hook. After that, Naruto tied them up and left a knife barred into a tree not too far away with a note on it that said, There you fought me, happy. Now leave me the fuck along, jackasses. Page S. I'm keeping everything else as payment for the fight. Naruto then took off to the hospital to visit a certain red hair man. Later on at the hospital, Naruto just exited the place. It turns out Yujiro was checked out 2 days ago by an American soldier, or at least what he could find out from the staff. They also said he was heading to America. Naruto just sighed at that. Then he heard his phone ringing. Pulling out his razor flip phone, he seen it was Tokugawa calling. He then answered and was told, "Naruto, I have a America by the name of Oliver Biscuit who wants to meet you. Do you want us to come to you or for you to come to us?" Naruto really only had one thing he could say. "I don't mean to sound rude, but can it wait till Wednesday, as I did sleep last night from fighting Izo and Gaia. Also I have a lot of work to do today as well." He then heard some talking in the background of the call and heard Tokugawa say, "That's is very agreeable, Naruto. We will see you then." They then hanged up and Naruto started to walk home. Chapter 5. Respect. Naruto had just gotten out of a taxi which he just got done sleeping in as well. Which the taxi driver said it was alright to do so. It turned out he was a student of Doppo. As Naruto walked up to his place, he seen Ichigo and Katara had decided to open up. Naruto just sighed as he opened the door and walked in. The first thing he seen was the fact everything seemed to be slow like it is every morning. It turns out people didn't want to eat noodles for breakfast. Who knew? He then seen Ichigo delivering food to what customers that was here. At seeing Naruto, Ichigo came to him and asked, "Hey boss, did you fix that problem?" To which Naruto replied with, "Yeah, I did. Nobody came around asking about me, did they?" At hearing Ichigo saying no, Naruto continued with, "Okay. Well, I'm going to head on up and get changed. Keep a lookout for that old dude or some asshole in camo pants and a bandana." After that, Naruto went on up knowing this was going to be a hell of a week. Wednesday. Naruto spent the last 2 days working as his restaurant was actually growing larger with each passing day. It wasn't just because of the underground fighting either, as thankfully he still remembered how to cook Ichiroku ramen from when he helped the old man save his daughter. Naruto sighed at the old memories as he was in his kitchen warming up leftovers from last night. But as he was doing that, heard a knock on his restaurant's door, which was locked for once. Naruto then remembered Tokugawa said he had someone that he wanted to meet him. When Naruto came out of the kitchen and looked at the door, he seen what was probably the largest muscular man he ever seen in his life. He was probably twice the size the Rackage was. He had on a pair of blue slacks. He had a red and yellow Hawaiian short on. On his face was a pair of metal sunglasses. He had to be 6 feet tall. He had almost shaven head of brown hair and his face was mostly smooth with the exception of a pinkle thin mustache. Right next to this monster was Tokugawa. Naruto unlocked the door and said, "Come in and take whatever seat you want. I got some soup on, I will bring you some out." Naruto then left back to the kitchen. Both Oliva and Tokugawa looked at each other and shrugged, then took a seat close to the door. He then came back a few minutes later after adding everything to the broth and set a bowl in front of both Tokugawa and Oliva. Naruto then said, "Hope you like it." Oliva looked up at Naruto and said, "I hope you didn't just poison this kid, haha. By the way, I don't think we have been formally introduced. The name is Biscuit. Oliva was the second strongest man in the world until you beat Yujiro." Oliva extended his hand to Naruto. Naruto took it and could tell Oliva was squeezing pretty damn hard to a point it would have broken anyone else's. But Naruto just returned it with his own strength, which made Oliva wince from the pain. Naruto then said, "Naruto Uzumaki. Also no, I would never disgrace ramen by doing that. Wait, is your first name Oliva or Biscuit?" Oliva took back his now hurting hand and answered with, "It's Oliva. I thought you Japanese said your family name first." He then sat back down and started to eat the soup and was surprised by how good it was. Hell, his 5-star chefs had never made him a soup this good for him before. Tokugawa took a sip and was surprised, but he said, "Naruto, while I am thankful for your hospitality and the ramen, which is good by the way, but Mr. Oliva came all this way to ask you something important." Naruto stopped eating and looked at the short man and said, "Let me guess, you're wanting to fight me? By the way, I'm not Japanese." Naruto then drank what was left of his soup. Oliva looked at the blonde and answered, "While that is on the list, it however is not the most important thing I want to ask you. I simply want to ask you, why haven't I heard of you before? Now Tokugawa told me the story you told him, while I do think it's nothing but bullshit." although there was an unknown phenomenon between the border of the US and Japan. No, with your background and power, why did it take 2 years to show up of the fighting Sean? Naruto sat back and looked to the 2 pictures on his wall, and then he answered Mr. Unchained. Look over there at those pictures, Oliva. And the big guy did, seeing the younger Narutos. Then he heard, they were the resin I fought. At the first real mission I ever took when I was 12, I learned that the only real reason to fight along with get truly strong is to protect the people you care about. Oliva was truly shocked by this, as this was the same reason he gained all his muscle. It was not to fight, nor was it to show off. No, it was so he could hold his sick wife, and as she got bigger, he got stronger. This is something Yujiro never understood, couldn't ever understand. Not even if you gave him 1,000,000 lifetimes. Naruto took a drink and continued with, my friends and mentors were the resin I fought in my world. They were the closest thing I had to or knew what it meant to a family. Every one of them are either dead or I will never see again. So until Yujiro hurt my staff, who I swore to protect for their dying father. Not to mention most of my fight sense have always been about helping this place. Oliva sat there in silence. He was loose for words. He thought for a minute and began to speak. Naruto, would you like to hear about the man I respected the most out of everyone I have ever fought? This not only got Naruto's attention but also Tokugawa. But it was Naruto that speaked. Something tells me it wasn't that piece of shit known as Yujiro, was it? Oliva actually laughed hard at that and said, hell no, haha. Now don't get me wrong, I respect his abilities as a fighter, but that's all. Oliva stopped to clear his throat and calm down. He then continued, his name is, well, I can't really remember fully, but he's known as Slim Jim. He was a 80-year-old man that was skin and bones and only had one arm to match his one eye. He passed on last year. Both Naruto and Tokugawa both leaned forward to hear the rest of it. I fought him about 15 years ago, but he was in jail long before that. You see, when he was 28, his wife and both of his kids was murdered by gang that was selling dope on his street. Not just that, but he also lost his arm and eye when they knocked him over the head and burned his house down. Well, for the next 20 years he went around killing everyone that was involved in it. Not just that, but he also wiped out the entire gang as well. This was shocking to both of them. Then Oliva finished with, he was given life plus 10. Hell, I think the only reason he challenged me is because he wanted me to kill him. I simply couldn't bring myself to do that for him. Not because I haven't killed people before, and in truth I don't remember most of them and don't feel bad about any of them. No, it's because I respected him too much to do that, and it just didn't feel right all. Naruto was still and silent for a while until something clicked and he asked, do you work at a prison or were you in one? I'm not judging, as I was in the pain as well for an attempt to assassinate a military leader, which I didn't do. I did, however, destroyed most of the presión before I was released though. Both Oliva and Tokugawa gave Naruto a funny look, as that was one hell of a thing to say right out of the blue, and if that was true, well, best to not think about that. Despite that, Oliva answered with, actually I still am a convict. They let me out for 2 reasons. 1, they can't hold me there, aka why my nickname is Mr. Unchained, and 2, I track down people for the government that have broken the law. 2, that Naruto just said. Oh, Naruto then decided to get to the payon. Look, while it's great actually to talk to someone with a like mind, as I can tell your character, but as you already know, I charge people to fight me. So what can you offer me? Oliva thought about it and said, I can get up $100,000 in cash if you beat me, but if I win you have to give me free food for life. He was smirking the entire time, and not because he thought Naruto was weak either. After all, Naruto has already beat too many people for his feats to be a fluke. No, because he was happy to fight someone he could respect for something other than their fighting abilities. Naruto agreed in a heartbeat, as that was enough money to finish buying this place from Hanayama, which would mean he would be able to make his way into the Black Way before Doppo's tournaments start. They both then left with Tokugawa telling Naruto that he was going to be the closer for tonight, as Baki was apparently in America for some reason. After they were gone, Naruto ran upstairs to tell Ichigo and Katara the good news. That night, Naruto was excited for the match to the point he shown up early to watch the face matches before his, 2 of which belonged to Jack Hanma. From the way he was fighting and how he was fighting, Naruto could tell that wasn't actually Jack fighting. No, if he had to guess with his personal experience of use about side power source and fighting others that did the same. Naruto could tell Jack was most likely on something. Naruto's thoughts ended as his match was about to begin. As he was walking, he seen Jack coming from the other way. As he passed, Naruto's suspicions was proven correct as Jack stink of foreign chemicals, but he didn't really care or have time for that as he made his way to the ring. As he got there, he seen Oliva in a literal thong. Naruto stopped and outright asked Oliva, "Okay, that's it. What in the hell is wrong with you grapplers that makes you want to fight naked?" Oliva looked back and said, "I can't speak for the rest, but it's because I'm too big to fight with clothes on. They just get in my way. Besides, if it's giving me an advantage against you, well, that's all for the better for me." Naruto's eye twitched and he said, "To hell with it." And he took off his shirt, and what underneath surprised everyone. Naruto did have one scar on his body, but what was really eye-catching was the fact Naruto still had his Sage of the Six Paths markings on his front, back and around his neck. Naruto then walked forward and drawn a line in the sand and said, "Come on big man, let's see who it tougher." Oliva looked at that for a second and smirked, then said, "Okay kid, let's box like the old timers." He then walked forward and put his left foot on the line right beside Naruto's. They both waited for the bell to ring, and when it did they wasted no time at all, as they both let loose with a right hook that connected from both of them. They both then went with a left jab and again still connected, then Naruto uppercut Oliva with a right. Oliva held his ground, hammered fist Naruto with a left. Punch after punch, this kept going and going. To the onlookers it seemed like two unmovable objects trying to move the other. It even seemed like they were moving faster and hitting harder with each strike, but unbeknownst to them that was exactly what was happening. As the fight kept going on, for some reason Oliva started to feel stronger than he ever felt before, and for some reason he was getting flashes of Naruto's life. Naruto on the other hand started to feel like his old self again as he started to see Oliva's own life. At this point the two of them were a blur, with each punch sounding like a cannon going off. The onlookers actually started to go from amazed to scared. Even Tokugawa was a little freaked out about this. Naruto and Oliva kept going until they both delivered a right uppercut so hard it kicked up sand and wind to the point it was almost completely gone from the ring and was in the stands. Everyone looked out and seen the two standing stock still. Then after a while Oliva fell to the ground unconscious from that last hit. For the former ninja, he looked down at the bodybuilder and seen a mark on him that looked like the one that was on his back that represents the tailed beasts, but looked up at he was declared the winner. Naruto then walked back to the locker room to check on something, as what just happened wasn't normal. Chapter 6. Jack and a Turkey. In the waiting room of one Naruto Uzumaki, he was looking on his back to check on his suspensions. So that wasn't my imagination, I did give Oliva that mark. Naruto then thought of something that the old man Sage told him when he unlocked his 6 paths. Ninashu. Naruto said to himself, the power to connect his mind and spirit to others. Naruto then seen Oliva and Tokugawa walk into the room, no doubt here to give him his winnings. He also noticed that Oliva looked a heel of a lot better than he did in the ring, almost like he gained some sort of healing factor during the fight. Before Tokugawa could say anything, Oliva basically jumped forward and screamed, "Naruto, what the fuck is going on, and why in the hell do I have this?" Oliva shown the mark he gained during the fight. For the former ninja's part, he wasn't too surprised by this, as he was sure Oliva seen his past just like he did. Naruto just said, "It looks like we connected aware minds and spirits. That's why you seen flashes of my life and I did your as well." Oliva was going to say something until Naruto cut him off. "No, it wasn't intentional if you were wondering, and no, I don't think I can remove that mark either. Matter of fact, I didn't know that I could still do that." Oliva huffed at that and asked Naruto, "Well, can you at least try and remove it, as I have enough problems with my own life, yet alone yours?" The younger man just sighed and said, "Fine, come here and put your first on mine." Naruto outstretching his and Oliva followed his orders. After a minute of them doing that and Tokugawa wondering what was happening, Oliva jumped back and said, "Okay, that's enough. The only thing that I could feel or see is your fucked up childhood being shoved down my throat." He then pulled out the check and walked to the door. Naruto just watched him and said, "I told you I didn't think I could remove it, but you shouldn't have to worry about seeing my past without being in contact with me," before Oliva opened the door and left to go back to the US. Tokugawa looked on at Naruto and asked, "So you really weren't lying about your past?" Oliva outright told me he's seen the fight that got you stuck here. Tokugawa then stood up for the seat he took while Naruto and Oliva was trying to remove the mark. Yeah, you will come to find out I very rarely lie about anything. Naruto then though about something that could possibly get him his powers back and get him back home. He then turned to the shorter man and asked him, "Hey Short Gramps, do you think you could tell me something about that guy Jack Hanma?" Tokugawa was actually shocked by the fact Naruto was taking an interest in a fight that hadn't challenged him. He also hoped that this would turn out to be another match. That Saturday night, Jack Hanma was currently in his waiting room resting from a fight. For the past couple of weeks he had been coming here and fighting any and everyone he could ever since his brother Baki challenged their father Yujiro to a fight and he agreed to it. So every waking moment now consists of training, eating and going to the doctor or drug dealer for bone growth and steroids. The former of which he hadn't been able to do in months because of the wait period between treatments. Right as he was going to get some steroids out to take he heard the door open. Putting his fox kit back and looking to the door he seen Tokugawa and that blonde kid he seen around here time to time. "Mr. Tokugawa, what do I owe the pleasure of your meeting?" Jack said with genuine respect. The short man walked forward with the ninja close behind and said, "Jack my dear boy, this man here Naruto Uzumaki would like to talk to you." Jack looked at the man and in truth he was unimpressed as he didn't look like a fighter and from his demeanor he didn't seem like someone who ran anything he would be interested in. Jack looked at Tokugawa and asked, "And what would that be?" Naruto was actually the one who answered Jack's question. "Well, I'm not here to fight you, so sorry to get your hopes up on Jack," Naruto said in a joking manner. Jack looked at Naruto with that statement and asked confused, "Why in the hell would I want to fight you? No offense, but you don't seem all that strong?" Both Naruto and Tokugawa looked shocked by that statement. Tokugawa stepped forth and asked, "Jack, do you not know who this man is?" Jake just shook his head, to which Tokugawa said, "Jake, Naruto here beat Doppo his second night here." Jack gave a look that said, "So?" Tokugawa continued, "He beat Boy Izo and Gaia at the same time while they were armed." Jack raised an eyebrow at that and Tokugawa continued, "He beat your brother Baki." That was a little surprised by that, but Tokugawa wasn't done yet. Hell, just last Wednesday he beat Oliva Biscuit, the second strongest man in the world. Jake was actually fully lost for words, as that would mean this twig is in the same level as his father. Then Tokugawa dropped the bomb. "Jack, he beat your father Yujiro." At this Jack's first thoughts was complete disbelief but soon turned to anger as he got up and made his way to Naruto. "You expect me to believe that this piss ant was able to beat that bastard Yujiro?" Jack then grabbed Naruto by the shirt. Tokugawa was going to say something but was beat to it by Naruto, as he took a hold of Jack's arm and began to squeeze. Jack's face contorted in pain as he let go of the shorter man. Naruto then put pressure on Jack, forced him onto the ground. For Jack this was unreal and very familiar. Jack was using every bit of strength he had trying to get off the ground. Naruto just looked at him and Jack then calmed down, which Naruto then pulled him off the ground ounce he was sure Jack no longer want to fight. Naruto patted Jack down and said, "Believe it or not, but you do know I'm stronger than yourself now. Tokugawa vouched for you, but I'm not so sure. He told me about your past." Jack looked at the short man knowing for a fact he never told him a thing. To which Tokugawa just looked away. "And how you were more like your grandfather and brother. So if you hate your father so much and want to suppress him, then meet me here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Jack took the small card Naruto handed him. It had an address on it. Naruto and Tokugawa just left, leaving Jack to his own thoughts. The next day, Jack was looking around as the address was just to a damn forest. Which he was wondering just what the hell they were going to do. Last night he came to the release if he ever wanted to beat his father. Training under someone who already has was his best option. Jack heard someone behind him. "Well, glad you came to your sense. Come on, I have a training room over here." Jack looked over and seen Naruto showing him where it was. Jack then followed Naruto until they came to what looked like a shipping container from a boat. Naruto then turned around and looked at Jack and said to the confused fighter, "This is my training room. I made it out of their separate types of shipping containers with concrete between each wall. After all, can't let just anyone be able to see my secrets." For the eldest Hanma's son that seemed reasonable. After all, whatever that could make someone stronger than the ogre was most likely not natural and needed to be kept secret. Jack followed Naruto up to the doors, that in truth looked to have been crappily welded together from 3 different doors. Jack then heard from Naruto, "You can put your thing over there by that tree. In no way will you be allowed to bring anything besides your shirt, pants and shoes in here." Jack then did just as Naruto said and then entered the container. Inside the container, the walls looked like they had some kind of carpet on them. Then the lights came on and Jack seen there was a refrigerator, a microwave, a crappy mattress with covers in a couple of buckets. At that point Jack knew something was very wrong and turned to see Naruto slam the door shut and lock it from the outside. Jack ran forward and started to beat the hell out of the door trying to open it. He then heard from outside, "Sorry Jack, but I need you to detox off the juice. You'll also need to stop the surgeries." At hearing this, Jack flew into a rage and said as he was pounding the door, "Naruto, you fucking son of a bitch, I am going to beat you to death for this." He stopped as he felt Naruto's full-on killing intent that actually drove every animal in a 50-mile radius away. As Jack fell to his knees and was having trouble to breathe, he heard a demonic voice that changed back to normal say, "I highly doubt that. Besides, if you would look to the bed you will find a note from your mother. I had Tokugawa track her down and get me in contact with her. Hell, this whole idea was hers to begin with. Anyway Jack, I got to go. I will see you next week." At hearing Naruto leave, Jack looked at the bed and picked at the letter. Inside was a printed off note that read, "My dear boy Jack. I'm so sorry for this, but it's for your own good. I would have never told you the truth about your father Yujiro and what that bastard did to me, if I knew what you would have done to try and get revenge on him. Jack, I do not want you to die on this fool's errand, and I don't want to bury my only son either, so please listen to Mr. Uzumaki. With love, Mom." Jack was at lose as beneath that was the numbers 1752, the same numbers that his mother always sent to him with each letter as it was her number in prison. Jack actually sat down and truly thought about all the things he had done to himself. While he didn't like the idea, he did agree to try and get clean for his mother, and so Naruto would train him. A month later, Jack had spent the month working out and staying clean. After the first week of nothing but hell, as his body felt like it was on fire and he was freezing at the same time. Then there was his stomach that he wished he could have removed and his pounding head. After that, Naruto came by with some weights for him to keep up his strength. He also brought more letters from his mother that Naruto apparently never did have any involvement with, as Tokugawa apparently had started to enjoy talking to her over the internet, something that he would like to completely ignore. After the month was up, he was standing outside with Naruto as a clean man. Or at least one not on drugs, as he really needed a shower. Naruto looked at Jack. He seemed to have lost a bit of muscle, but he seemed a lot healthier. So he told Jack, "Okay, now hell month it over with, I want you to show me what you can do." Jack was a little taken back and excited to dish out some pain on his kidnapper as he said, "You got it, little man." Naruto smirked as he dodged a right uppercut. He then grabbed Jack's left arm as Jack tried a left jab and flipped him onto the ground. Jack springed back up and tried to bite Naruto, only to have the blonde to jump onto his back. Jack then pushed himself off the ground and looked at Naruto and said, "You are not taking this seriously at all." To which Naruto responded with, "I'm taking this as seriously as you are. I asked you to show me what you got and all you've done is mess around. Now quit holding back and come at me as if I was Yujiro." Jack took a deep breath and said, "Fine." He closed his eyes and then opened them back up. All he could see at that moment was Naruto as Yujiro, to the point he even started to sound and smell like him. Jack then went on the attack with a straight-up spear that connected and drove Naruto back. Naruto was surprised by the speed and power Jack had from his attack. Hell, it actually almost felt like it came from Oliva. Naruto stopped Jack running but was met with a left uppercut that actually made Naruto go sky-born, that Naruto was shocked by as it hurt a lot more than what Baki's did. Naruto then flipped and landed only to dodge a right straight from Jack. Naruto then he hit Jack with a left jab to the ribs that pushed Jack back. The two looked at one another, with Jack only being able to see Yujiro and Naruto seeing his plan starting to work. The two then kept up the fight as Naruto kept pushing and pushing Jack. Jack for his part wasn't holding back at all and even was trying to bite Naruto every now and again. He kept it up until something in Jack broke free and he felt a new surge of power as his Hanma blood began to boil and on his back was the face of a demon. Naruto could feel Jack's awakening as his killing intent increased by 10 times. Jack's speed and strength skyrocketed, as Naruto was putting up more effort than he had Agents Oliva before he gave him the tailed beast mark. Naruto decided this was enough and knocked Jack out as Naruto knew Jack was too far going right now. A little bit later, Jack woke up in an unfamiliar room. He then got up and looked around. For the most part it was pretty bare with the exception of a dresser and a nightstand with a lamp. He then got up and looked around and seen there was a small living room with nothing in it with the exception of some boxes. He then seen the door open to reveal Naruto walking in. A few seconds early, Naruto was making his way to a room as he heard noise coming from it, so Jack must be awake. Naruto was glad his guess about the Hanma blood only being able to be awake by an extreme fight where the Hanma was only under his own power seemed to be correct. Now he just hoped his guess about the tailed beast marks were right. As he entered the room he seen Jack looking around and said, "Naruto, where in the hell am I?" The blonde ninja actually chuckled at this and said, "Sorry, but I brought you back to my restaurant. This is a spare room I had in it. I also brought your things over here the bay I locked you up in that box." Jack looked around and said, "Well, I guess that's not all that surprising as you could afford those containers and everything in it." As Naruto heard this he said, "No, I don't either. Those are owned by Tokugawa for transporting animals in. Hell, everything in it I narrowed from him. Well, except the food." The taller of the two raised an eyebrow at that and started to wonder who actually want Naruto to train him. But his thoughts was cut short as Naruto continued with, "Now Jack, if you haven't noticed, your Hanma blood has finally truly awake, as it couldn't have otherwise. Now I don't know what will happen if you start using again, but there is a chance it might seal back up." Jack was taken aback by this as he knew something was different about himself now. Jack then said with a smirk, "So this was your plan all along, to get he to awaken my bloodline. This is how I'm going to suppress my father." Naruto just shook his head and said, "No, not really, it was step 1 of my plan, but you still need step 2. Do you think you're ready for it?" At Jack agreement Naruto said, "Okay, stick out your right arm and fist bump me." The drug addict just looked at Naruto odd but did it anyway. As soon as they touched, memories of Naruto's life began to flood into his mind and he started to feel a lot more powerful now to the point he could barely stand it. Naruto then released and said, "Well, I'm glad that worked." Jack was extremely confused but started to recall on Naruto's life and said, "Yo, you are not from this world. You just connected my mind and spirit with yours. You just gave me a portion of your strength. Why?" Naruto looked at Jack and said, "I'm hoping by doing this I will be able to ignite my chakra once again and find a way back home. But to do that I will need 9 people I can trust this power to." The eldest Hanma's son was taken aback by this, but he then seen Naruto started to leave as he said, "By the way, you can stay here but we'll need to stay off the juice. Also I will get back to you tomorrow about the rent." Naruto then exited to the room and left Jack alone with his thoughts.